Hello, everyone. And when somebody's in here, can you let me know how the sound is? And in the meantime, I will set everything up. And it looks like we have a couple people in here. So can somebody let me know how the sound is? Go birds. All right. Sound is nice. Perfect. I love to hear it. All right. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be picking our coffees for the March 2026 Coffee of the Month. So, as always, we have a list of suggestions for you guys on Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and pull up those suggestions right now, and then we are going to go through all of those, as well as any suggestions that you guys have. So, we will take a look at all of them here on stream. And in addition to that, the coffee that I will be drinking today is the Yellow Gesha from Say. So, the Peruvian Yellow Gesha that everybody has been really excited about. My first time trying it. So, cheers to everyone. And as always, I'm curious what you guys are drinking today. So, I'll go ahead and show you guys what we are drinking. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. All right, perfect. And it is this coffee right here. And I've heard that there's a lot of really positive praise about this coffee. And when brewing it, I could tell that it was a very nice and special coffee. So it tastes very much like a washed coffee, very clean. We're off to a very good start. And one more thing before we get started, let me take you through a quick reminder of the coffee roasters that are not eligible for this list because we have previously had them as one of our coffee of the months. So last month was 43, and I've actually started working on that coffee. Then we have Still is still ineligible, and we should be getting their coffee this week finally. Outside of that, we have Scenery, and then Moonwake, Weston Gopi, Intelligentsia, Cedo, Coffee Collective, Shoebox, September, and Thankfully. And then I believe the last one we'll have is Poem. Actually, Poem might be eligible for this month, but any other coffee roaster is one that we can do. So let me go ahead and pull up our Instagram list. And the first suggestion we got was from Sean OG, and they suggested honey processed Ethiopian coffees. So I don't know of any honey processed Ethiopian coffees that I've been keeping a very close eye on, but we will see what we might be able to find. All right, let's see here. We have a comment that says, I had Ethiopia Richa from Giraffe Slovakian Coffee Roasters. Let's take a look. Do you know if by chance they might also have a honey processed Ethiopian coffee? Because that would be a good place to start. And Midnight Salsa says, had the Letty from September and Karagoto from Exposure Therapy today, both outstanding. That's two very different coffees, but two coffees that I know have a lot of praise behind them. So kind of envious actually. The only thing I had this morning was the Sidra from Bots and now this Peruvian coffee, but I would say that this one's a fair bit more enjoyable, not really surprising. This one's much more my type of coffee. And we still need to get around to reviewing, I think it's pronounced giraffe. Let me make sure I spell it correct. I can never spell it correct either. Goriffee coffee. There we go. If all goes to plan, I am hoping that at some point this year we might be able to go to Prague and do a review series. And I would hope that there's a place that we would be able to find their coffee while out there. We'll see though. Looks like we mostly have washed and naturals so far. This is the coffee that you were talking about. It sounds like my type of coffee. And we have some Indian coffees. I think we've only reviewed that one Indian coffee. Let me know if you guys want us to review more of them because we're starting to see them from a lot more coffee roasters as well. Unfortunately, no honey. Yeah. We'll keep an eye out for honey processed Ethiopian coffees. We did one as I wouldn't say it was our theme, but the one from Say would end up winning our Coffee of the Month poll a couple of months ago. Take a look at the exposure therapy one too. Actually, I think we might hold off on exposure therapy for right now because one of the suggestions we got was for exposure therapy. I also brewed the Nito this morning, pretty good in its own right, but Albino is the Peru to beat for the season. That's good to know, Nathan. We'll take a look too. I'm kind of curious what else is currently on their website. They have a lot of Peruvian coffees. They've been going heavy into their Peruvians this year. Yeah, I think this is the coffee you're talking about. No, the Neto. And we have so many Peruvian coffees. All right, and we got a comment from Katerina. I hope you get to go to Prague. It's an amazing city. Well, I have been before. It's just been almost 30 years since I was last in Prague. A very long time. I had 4 Peru Geshes this week from this year's Nordic's Best Roaster competition. Kent, was there one that really stood out to you? I'm very curious about that, actually. We're trying to keep an eye out for Peruvian Geshes. I have mixed feelings so far. Some of them are just okay, but we've also had some that can rival some of the best coffees we've had from other coffee roasters. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. We have one review coming up within the next few weeks. Exposure therapy is nice as filter, but tried it as soup through the OXO Rapid Brewer, and it's the best soup I've had to date. I've still not yet had anything as soup, and Airworks has been trying to get me to soup so many coffees, but I've been pretty stubborn in refusing to try. I guess it's kind of worth it. I'm going to give a very boring backstory behind that. There is a coffee shop in Seattle, and a lot of people probably know this coffee shop, but they have had this weird kind of espresso filter machine for a very long time. And I used to go there and I used to order their pour overs, but their pour overs came out so muddy because they were kind of this weird espresso pour over shot. And I think that kind of ruined soup for me. So ever since then, I just have the idea of what those coffees were. Granted, they weren't using the best coffee roasters out there, but since then, I have not wanted to try this hype trend of soup. All right. And Midnight Salsa, who is in here actually, the suggestion they had was March's coffees we think you'll love, April Fool's coffees you'll hate. And I actually told this idea to somebody and they loved the idea. So it's a very fun idea. March is my birthday, so I would actually find it fun to do coffees I love for March. April Fool's, though, I do have an idea for an April Fool's thing that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but we will see how that goes. We'll continue to go through the rest of this list and take a look at coffees that I would be a big fan of and coffees that I would not, but that's a very fun suggestion. Next up, we had a suggestion from Mikey Ellingson, and they suggested do seasonal origin or variety, something more specific to this time of year. Okay, that's great. And that's kind of perfect too, because what seems to be in season now, kind of at this point, is we have the end of the year African coffees, but more specifically, we're getting into a lot of Central American coffees, so Honduran coffees. Also, we're starting to see a fair bit of Colombian coffees being released here, like these Pink Bourbones are in season a bit. So we have some really good options, and I think that will play in well with one of the ideas that we do have. I bought the OXO like a weekend ago, been trying it, and I can't get the clarity. Feels like acidic coffee. And that's kind of my concern on it. It was a combination of weirdly acidic and muddied at the same time. But maybe I will allow Airworks to make us one when we go to one of their events with a coffee they feel like works out really well in soup. Okay, so we're keeping that. That's probably going to be something that we take into mind, Mike's suggestion, because a lot of the other ideas do fit in line with that theme, a lot of seasonal origins and varietals. And that takes us to our next one. And this one is also from Sean, and they suggested Burundi or Rwandan theme. So it immediately caught my eye that we have this Burundi coffee right here. And we do a very poor job of reviewing enough Burundi coffees throughout the year. If anybody has had a good Burundi coffee this year that they would say is worth suggesting, then please let us know. But that reminds me, one coffee roaster I know that has a fair bit of Burundi coffees and supposedly really good ones is Shoebox. So I was curious to see what Shoebox was releasing this week. And they have a processed Colombian coffee, a decaf one, could not sound less like my type of coffee. And then we have a seasonal blend. So probably not the best offerings that I've ever seen. Outside of that, though, we did pick up both of these Mejrados last week. And what else do we got here? Yeah, I figured we'd have some really nice Burundi offerings. All three of these sound pretty nice. This is the one that would probably be the one I would pick. And I believe this is the one that we had last time around. Very good. Oh, and this one, Durley Santos. Very, very good coffee. Durley Sanchez. All right. So we're going to keep the Burundi or Rwanda theme in mind, especially the Burundi theme, largely because I do know that we have another suggestion. And speaking of suggestions, we got one from the Real John Coffee, and they suggested blends. And that actually fits right here, given that we do have a blend. We've had the idea of blends for a very long time, and it's been mixed in terms of popularity. There are a lot of people that still are strongly opposed to blends, but one coffee roaster I know that is supposed to have a good blend is Blind Tiger. And I would love to go back to reviewing one of Blind Tiger's coffees. Got a pink peppercorn coffee. You love to see it. So we'll definitely keep some blends in mind. Let's go ahead and see what else we've got. And Robert Shy's suggestion, they said, I'd love to see some Flower Child in the mix, Colombian Geishas, perhaps. So that's the first suggestion we got for Colombian Geishas. And I can spoil it that we do have a couple of suggestions. So those are the two origins that I have in mind. We're going to do either Burundi coffees or Colombian Geishas based off of how many people suggested them. We're still open to every other idea, but as of right now, we're going to see if we can find coffee specifically pertaining to those themes. But let's take a look at what Flower Child is offering, and I would still love to revisit Flower Child here in the near future. It has been far too long since we've last reviewed one of their coffees. Father out of South Africa always has an insane lineup. We'll take a look at them too. I feel like we look at them on pretty much every stream, but I'm still open to looking at some of their other coffees. Flower Child has a mystery coffee now. All right, this one right here, we have a Colombian Geisha. So this fits perfectly in line with the theme, and I do appreciate Robert specifically suggesting Flower Child with this Colombian Geisha. So I'm going to put this on here. And this is off to a good start if this is a theme we're going to go with. And would we add anything to a Flower Child order? They also have a Burundi coffee. So see, we can fit Flower Child into either theme. And if you guys have a preference, then definitely let me know. I don't think we've done either theme before, so either of them work. And let's take a look at Fathers. Let's take a look at all of them. I was just thinking when you mentioned that they have a really insane lineup that which coffee roaster do I know that usually has the best offerings? And for the longest time, it was Café Circular because you used to be able to look at their website and see 100 offerings or so. They've scaled down since, and they don't have as many high-end offerings as they once did, but they still usually have something that sounds interesting. Okay, what do we have here? Classic Diego Bermudez wildly processed coffee. And while that coffee is kind of interesting, I want to see if there's something that might fit our theme. We have a pink bourbon. This right here is a Castillo. So we'd be looking for a Colombian Geisha. And they have Letty over here. Letty and Luna. So none of the coffees fit in with this theme that I can see. They also have Zio. I guess Zia would fit, actually. They do have a really extensive lineup. Not a single Burundi, though. I'll write down Zio. All right. Let's see what else we've got. Nathan said, Jessica from Helm. Absolutely. Yeah, let's take a look at that. I would love to take a look at Helm. Helm left enough of a positive experience that I would definitely love to go back and try some more of their coffees. Yes, Kapara. Perfect. And we have the Gesh right there too. I will spoil this a little bit. This, if it's the same coffee that Shoebox is offering, is probably one of my least favorite coffees that I've had from Shoebox as of this moment. It is a fair bit more fermenty than I would like for a washed Gesha coffee. But I am more than happy to write this one down. This is perfect fit for the theme. Let's see what we got. My favorite in Nordics competition came from Good Life Roasters from producer Adina Perez, but none of the entries were outstanding in my opinion. Interesting. I would hope that, given that it's in that competition, that they might be better. Let me take a look at that. I know I've had coffee from them before. I just can't remember whether or not we've actually reviewed their coffee. I think we have one review of their coffee. This would be a really good fit for the Peruvian theme. Yeah, we have at least one review of their coffee now that I'm looking at them. Got a Tabby, got an Ahi. Seem to be a bit heavy on the washed coffees, which I'm not complaining about. I'm kind of curious who the other coffee roasters were in this competition. There are some really good Nordic coffee roasters, one of which came suggested to us that we're going to be taking a look at here shortly too. Fried Huts have Colombian Geshas and Burundis that look great. That's perfect. Let's take a look at them. Believe it or not, I don't think Fried Huts have actually won one of our Coffee of the Month bowls. I've also never ordered from them directly. There are enough places nearby that usually carry something from Fried Hats where it makes it really easy for us to just pick them up. All right, let's try to find. And we're actually going to write this down, but this is perfect. They have pretty much everything that we're looking for. Got a semi-washed Gesha. Diego Horta, which we've reviewed before, not this infused Gesha. But there are options for everything with Fried Hats. More than happy to write them down. Might need to branch out just a little bit when picking coffees and get something that isn't just a true washed, but truth be told, I would probably lean towards something like this. Sounds like my type of coffee too. I've said this before. One thing I wish about Fried Hats is that they would offer filter roasts for their higher end coffees, but it seems all of their higher end coffees are omni roasted. Le Cabra has a very nice Burundi on offer and a Rwandan Gesha. It's pretty rare to see. Ooh, a Rwandan Gesha. That is actually pretty cool. Let me take a look at that. A Rwandan Gesha. If that's the case, it's because Gideon, I know you're in Europe, I believe. So I think that we have to take a look at their European website. There it is. That is really cool, actually. I would not be opposed to Le Cabra winning the Coffee of the Month poll now, just specifically to get this coffee. I think this is the first time I've ever seen one. All right, we'll write down Le Cabra. You mentioned that they had, let's see, that Rwandan Gesha, also Burundi coffee. So we'll write them down in the Burundi category. Might be as simple as just asking or doing a poll on which theme people would prefer, Burundis or washed Colombian Gesha, or I guess Colombian Geshas in general. Good Life Coffee bought recently color sorter for their coffees. That's good to know. I haven't necessarily had the best results with the few experiences I've had from Good Life, so it's nice to hear that things are progressing in the right direction. I think that they roast on a roasting machine that I like. I think they still have a drum roaster, and I think that was one of the appealing aspects of their coffee to me. I have no idea what Zach Smith is talking about. And I'm hesitant to look at anything that Zach suggests. So for anybody that does not know, Zach is a friend of mine, and I'm always hesitant to go search and click on anything that Zach suggests. All right, let's see here. We got one from Smergel, and they suggested Fruc has Picudo Gesha. Let's take a look. Actually, we might hold off on taking a look at Fructier because somebody else did suggest them. So we'll get to Fructier in a bit. Yeah. And we were still looking at Robert's suggestion, but Bean and Bean has 2 Colombian Geshas, 1 washed. Let's take a look at that, Nathan. I feel like Bean and Bean was actually in one of our polls back in the day, but they've not won any of our polls. Bean and Bean's an interesting one. We did purchase their Pepe coffees that they released a bit ago, but in one of the rare moments, we scrapped the reviews because it sounded like they weren't happy with the way that the coffees turned out. And I had mixed opinions on reviewing them as a result for those coffees, especially since they weren't happy with them. And we were so far into those reviews that I didn't feel the need to go back and purchase, or I guess get the re-release of those coffees. They were offering them to anybody that wanted the re-release. It just felt like since we'd already pretty much gone through the motions and process of the review and they just weren't happy with it, we were just going to hold off on it for the time being. But yeah, here we go. Colombian Gesha. And it's on the more reasonably priced end of things. Sometimes their coffees are a little bit more expensive, but this one right here, $26, it's not bad. We'll write them down. Kappa also scored the highest in the Nordics with their Peruvian Gesha, but their entry is not on offer yet. I got mine from the tasting set from Cafe Box. Ken, I recently had somebody tell me that they were not the biggest fan of the Benjamin Paz La Salsa from Kappa, which was kind of interesting because I've been wanting to review that coffee for a very, very long time. And hearing that from him made me a little bit more hesitant to get it in the future. I still want to try their Probat roasted version when they do their special release of it, but I've had mixed impressions of the Benjamin Paz La Salsa coffees we've had from other coffee roasters outside of Fruct, and that just goes to show how good that version of the coffee was. All right, and Midnight Salsa says, I see what you did there. I respect it. And then there's a bird. So I am beginning to wonder whether or not this is a... yeah, now that I see that, it makes sense. Of course, it is a Eagles reference. Seopec Benjamin Paz, good. Let's take a look at that. I think I spelled that wrong. Oh, no, there we go. A UK-based, British-based coffee roaster. I remember looking at them now that we're going through it. There it is. La Salsa. I'm telling you, this coffee has one of the highest floors for a non-Panamanian geisha I've experienced, and it also has a little bit of a lower floor if the coffee's not done the best. I think we're working on 3 Benjamin Paz geishas. Not all of them are La Salsa, but yeah. Can we fit them into our theme? We could actually. You know what? We'll write them down. Out of curiosity, what is their profile? Are they on the slightly more developed side of things? Because anytime it is a UK-based coffee roaster, I just wonder that. All right, Nathan, the re-release, if that Yihon was better, that said the first Pico Lot release was too brown roasty for me, so I've been reluctant to order from either Bean and Bean or Pico Lot since. So, yeah, I heard that the re-release was a little bit better, but I didn't hear too much about it, so I wouldn't be able to tell for sure. The Pico Lot has been kind of interesting because they've also had some coffees that I've wanted, but also some coffees I've wanted to avoid. So if there's enough demand for it, we'll review it at some point, but we will see on that. Light for sure. That's good to know. We need more light English-based coffee roasters. So between them and La Cabra, there are 2 coffees that I would really like to review if either of them want our poll. Peruvian Coffee Dance. All right, let's take a look at BK. By Normal Coffee People. I probably misspelled that. They have this Mejorado back, and El Alisal, a Quechua. Interesting. I was having a conversation with Airworks about MinMax's coffees recently, and I was saying that there have been quite a few coffees I've wanted to purchase from them. I've just done a terrible job of actually purchasing them because we had other stuff. Like more recently, we were working on over 30 coffees at one time, which is higher than we're used to doing. So we've actually had to space them out in 4-day increments of trying each one of them. But you mentioned a honey Ethiopia. Let me. All right. Is this all of their coffees? There it is. See, if I were to purchase from them, there are quite a few coffees that I really like. So there's the Sergio Caro, there's the Mario Hervas. I'm still interested in that El Alisal. That sounds like a pretty fun coffee. And then we also have the La Florida, which I've actually only reviewed from one coffee roaster. I didn't have the best results with it, but I wanted to try it from a different coffee roaster since. So there's quite a few on MinMax's website currently. I don't think anything falls within the theme except for this coffee. So we'll go ahead and add it. We have a lot of Colombian geishas, so it's starting to seem like that might be the direction we'll go. Bolaños. Would you be interested in the standout coffees washed Ashai Gestra by Diego Bermudez? Was that coffee available from them recently? Because we were looking at their offerings from Airworks recently because Airworks was bringing in standout. And I remember looking at the list and not being overly impressed by anything. So I don't remember if that coffee was available at that time. We'll take a look at it though. I'm guessing it's too late to order them directly from Airworks. I don't think their shipping was too expensive because we've ordered directly from them before. They have really good deals usually. Yeah, like 3 for 4 on all jars, and then I think they have like a minimum shipping cost that's not terrible or so, and 10% off. Oh, it is a Hatchie coffee. I've also wondered about you guys if, well, you have picked out slightly more expensive coffees for us to get as our coffee of the month before, so I don't think people are opposed to higher end coffees because this is probably $65 for 100 grams. That's what I figured. I'll write it down. Yeah, we're already up to, looks like 8 washed Colombians. And we still have some really interesting Burundi coffees, the Flower Child Burundi, the Fried Hats Burundi, the Le Cabre Burundi. Maybe not something like Shoebox GWO, but more in that direction. Okay, maybe a good comparison is Scenery. I'm sure you've had something from Scenery. How would you compare their coffees to Scenery then? I'm actually happier with Scenery each and every time we've had them. I know that Airworks brought them in too, and I feel like we didn't order anything from them, but I've heard that they're supposed to have some really interesting stuff coming out. Stereoscope has a washed anaerobic Colombian Gesha, Finca La Flores. Haven't tried them in a couple years though. I've never tried them. Oh, they are based out of Portland, right? Maybe I have tried them then. I kind of figured if we went with this theme, it'd be extremely easy to find Colombian Geshas. They're really common out there right now. I have quite a few of the washed ones. All right, let's see what we've got here. We got a suggestion from Simcosi, and they suggested Exposure Therapy's new drop. Let's take a look at what Exposure Therapy is currently offering. And this is why I held off on discussing Exposure Therapy, but I have a lot to say about them. I'm very curious to see what they're currently offering now, too. New drops. So, do they have anything that I missed from their new drop? They have a Pink Bourbon. And I believe this is the coffee from earlier. Somebody had said that they were trying the Caragoto from Exposure Therapy. If you're still in the chat, how was this coffee? We did not get it, unfortunately, but I'm curious about how it was. I'm trying to remember exactly which coffee it was that we purchased from them that Airworks sold out of, but we are currently in the process of working on 2 of their coffees, which is this Yemen coffee and this Peru. And unsurprisingly, I like the Peruvian coffee better, but this Yemen coffee is out there. It is a very intense coffee. They do have some really nice sounding coffees, to be fair. But I think we're going to end up with the same thing that's happened every time we purchase from Exposure Therapy. The best coffee that they offer is the one that we didn't end up getting because we just kept hearing how amazing this coffee was, but we weren't able to get it, and we got this one instead. And then same thing from the past. It was one of their Yemen coffees that was supposed to be amazing, but we did not get it. Instead, we got the Cantaranas. So we will see what happens on this one, but these are the 2 coffees that we're currently working on from them. See here. Yeah, Geshas right now are everywhere. Of course they are. Love to see some GWO here. So, fun fact about GWO, Simon, is that our next review coming up on Monday is finally a GWO review. So, we already have it posted and edited. We just need to hit release. So, coming out, I guess that would be tomorrow. Yeah, our first ever GWO review. Gardelli has a Puerto Arturo Gesha. Let's take a look at what do we call them? Gardelli. Same thing with Gardelli. I feel like we look at them almost every single stream. I don't know why it took us to images, but we are still slightly hesitant on picking up anything from them as of this moment. And I do need to check up to see if maybe a lot of the controversy and issues have been sorted out. I've had their coffee before. It's just been a bit. the coffee shop up in Vancouver, Revolver, usually carries their coffee pretty often, and as a result, we get plenty of opportunities to try them. It sounds like a very nice coffee. We've always had very nice coffees. Gesha yogurt. I've never seen that before. And 42 euros isn't terrible for Gardelli. They are also similar in that sometimes their coffees can be a little up there. They have quite a few Peruvian coffees. They have a really nice selection. I'm going to write that down for myself. I need to follow up on what's going on with Gardelli. Hell of a first impression from Exposure Therapy. Got it through Airworks garage sale a couple of weeks ago and still awesome. 8 to 10 weeks off roast. That is good to hear. Exposure Therapy is the coffee roaster I would say that I've heard the most amount of positivity about that we have not been able to replicate yet. And I still say it's because we just don't seem to get the right coffees. And I continue to point it on Airworks because usually I tell Airworks, pick out the coffees for us. And the coffees that they give us are the coffees that are supposedly not as good as the other ones that they're offering. So it is what it is. Maybe at some point we will, unless you don't want to order from Gardelli still. It's, yeah, I really don't know what's going on with Gardelli, but we'll keep an eye on that. Have you tried Datura's Maccabi Marcel Reserve Lot 233? I have not. We're only working on one coffee from Datura right now, and it is Tabe Burka. Airworks used to bring them in a lot more. They haven't been doing so as much recently. I'm sure this is the coffee you're talking about. I'm wondering, maybe assuming you've had a chance to try it. Oh, look, Airworks has even officially made it onto Datura's website. Good for Jacob. They don't even have the Tabe Burka anymore. Maybe Natura's just scaled things back for the time being, because usually they have so many more coffees on their website. But yeah, I have not had a chance to try that coffee yet. Jacob is sabotaging you. I mean, would we really be surprised? You guys would not believe some of the interactions we've had. Some of them are just absolutely hilarious. Anyway, are you working on anything from Heart? Yes, we are currently working on the Benjamin Pass Gesha from Heart. And I can say that it's probably not going to be as good as the one from Fruit, but it is better than some of the other ones we've had from other coffee roasters. So we'll see how that one turns out. The tour is heading to Panama. We'll be back in April. Well, there you go. That explains it. Probably why they don't have as many on their website. I've had the Tabe Burka. Was nice, green tea like coffee. The thing about Tabe Burka is substance set the bar extremely high because that version of that coffee was just too stunning. And since then, I feel like it'll be difficult for any coffee roaster to live up to that same experience. Just like there was that natural Ethiopia we had a couple of years ago from Kafa that we've struggled to replicate being as good when we tried it from other coffee roasters. Can't remember the name of that one off the top of my head. All right, and we got a suggestion from Aditya, and they suggested Shaira coffees, and we were already looking at one of them, but we'll take a look at a couple of more. I've been keeping an eye on them while we've been looking through coffee roasters because that is the Rwandan Gesha that we saw from La Cabra. They specifically mentioned that one. And I might personally reach out to them and talk to them about that coffee because that's a very interesting sounding coffee. But let's take a look at what else we've got. They suggested the ones from Scenery, and that's perfect. I wanted to look at Scenery earlier, and I do know that they have some interesting sounding coffees, but let's see what they've got. And yeah, we have these Shaira coffees. I mean, obviously, the first one I'm going to click on is say traditional washed. They have quite a few of them. The only issue with Scenery is that they're ineligible for our Coffee of the Month poll since they won, and you guys did them dirty by picking out that holiday coffee that was probably the least my type of coffee that I could have ever purchased from Scenery, but it is what it is. Otherwise, yeah, they have some nice sounding coffees, especially if you're going for the Rwandan offerings. Yeah, the Rwandan theme is a pretty decent one too. And one of the other coffee roasters they suggested was Bell Lane, and I would love to take a look at what Bell Lane's currently offering. I don't usually look at too many coffee roasters offerings on my own outside of stream or when Airworks sends us a list, but when I do, they are one of the coffee roasters that I take a look at because I have wanted to revisit them. We had one of the best first impressions of any coffee roaster we'd had with their Johann Vergara Pink Bourbon, and then we tried a sample box from them, and they were still good, but didn't live up to that same experience. But ever since then, I've been wanting to try them again. Look, they have it too. That might be enough to convince me to purchase from them because I've been looking for an excuse to go back and revisit their coffee, and that seems like a perfect opportunity. I like them better than Le Cabra. New York Le Cabra is better than the European Le Cabra we've had. We'll write that down. All right, let's see here. 5K subscriber milestone video, coffee reviews versus Airworks bare knuckle boxing match. Who says no? You know, I've said that before. I've said if there's one other person in the coffee space that I wouldn't mind doing a coffee boxing with, it would be Jacob. But anybody that knows him knows he's a little bit of a gentle soul in a certain way. So I don't know how. Although he probably would want to box me. I give him enough headaches in the same way that he gives me enough headaches. All right. Smeargel says Mock has Columbia Finca El Paraiso Gesha washed. It's always fun to see Diego's coffees as a true washed. So let's take a look at them. Jacob's pretty tall, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know. So he has a couple of inches of height on me. But I'd still be down. There it is. Well, that's not really washed. It's beer hop fermented. That's much more what I'd expect from. Oh, it's not even Paraiso, it's Paseo. Look at Mock. Some of the my biggest criticism of them in the past was that they didn't have the most exciting sounding coffees, but right now they have some pretty interesting things. They always had that, I want to say Ethiopian heirloom Panama, or maybe I have that wrong, but it's always nice to see stuff like this. Pepe's coffees and whatever this coffee is. I don't have enough familiarity with this producer either. Hoppy, florals, and citrus. I have a good idea of what that coffee is going to taste like. Oh, here we go. Giovanni has a comment, and they said, I'm Italian, and it is reported that the controversy with his wife is getting to an end, and he managed to see his son. Interesting. Okay. And I've not heard of that coffee roaster too, but I do appreciate the update on that situation. That entire thing was a lot more messy than I would like to see. And the fact that it was kind of aired out in the public space in the way that it was didn't help. I think everyone just wants what's best for the kid, and yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to what we've got next. And the next suggestion was from Dissidog, and they suggested Colombian Gesha, and that seems to be the direction that we're going with on our theme. So yeah, perfect, right in line with that. Next suggestion we got was from Kimusk, and they suggested fruit. So there's a perfect opportunity to finally look at fruit, as I mentioned. There's the, I think, Julian Calderon coffee that I've been wanting to review from them for a while. Also, I am kind of annoyed that this is now the way that their website looks, because this is my first time looking at the website since I think that they've changed it, and you actually have to hover over every single one to see what each coffee is. So Rosado. And another slightly negative thing about Fruct is that they don't offer too many different offerings. They do have good connections with their producers, which you love to see as well. But as a result, you don't see a lot of different coffees from them. This is the one I feel like was being mentioned earlier. It's a natural Colombian Gesha. And it would give us a little bit of diversity when it comes to the processing of our coffees. I just wish there was something more I wanted from them. Their Honduran coffees obviously were such a wonderful standout. And it looks like, I believe the Pequeños coffees are El Salvadorian coffees, if I remember correctly. Yeah, El Salvadorian coffees. Nordic coffee roasters really seem to love their El Salvadorian coffees. I'll write them down. Let's see here. I really like their washed coffees. Good to know. I might take a look at them if we get an opportunity. The coffees I had from Mock didn't knock my socks off, but one of my favorite cafes I've been to, Stellar Food 2, for what it's worth. They are in Belgium, right? We originally had a plan to, back when Ben was still working for Manhattan, we were planning on flying into Belgium, and Mock was one of the coffee shops that we were going to visit. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and Ben no longer works for Manhattan. And I say not ultralight, but coffees are very juicy and clean. And clean's always the word I like to hear when it comes to coffee roasters. And Smeargel is going to visit Fruct in 2 weeks, so that's very exciting. They are very high on my list of not just coffee roasters I want to visit, but the Nordic countries in general. So very jealous of that. I hope you have a wonderful time. It sounds amazing. A few years ago, you reviewed Benjamin Pass from Fruct. I ordered it from Heart. Will report back. The tasting notes sounded spectacular. Did we review Benjamin Pass from Fruct? I feel like we reviewed them from Heart, and we weren't overly impressed by that version that they released. I think that this version is a lot better. I think it was an SL28, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I was surprised to hear when I learned about them. Much better and lighter than you'd expect. Thinking about supporting them and picking up a Peru again. Local Czech websites carry them. Okay, I think we're still talking about that Italian coffee roaster. Oni Coffee Roasters in Dublin are another Irish coffee roaster keeping an eye on. They currently have a very nice Colombian Gesha, and they roast on the lighter side. I appreciate that, Ian. In comparison to Calendar and Bell Lane, do you have a good idea? I imagine if they're roasting lighter, they're probably somewhere similar to those. In the same way that I really like our Australian subscribers and followers, I really like our Irish followers and subscribers. They are really cool people. And I also do wonder if they ship to the United States, but this is the coffee that you're talking about, and we would have a natural to balance it out, though that's an espresso blend. I guess we'd probably have to lean towards the Kenyan coffee. And I'd also be extremely surprised if they were to win one of our polls, given that our polls are usually a big popularity contest. All right. Yeah, the Peru and the Kenyas are by far the best. Kenya is my favorite, very juicy, but doesn't taste like tomato. That's also another positive thing, not tasting like tomato. All right, next up, we have another suggestion from the same individual, and they suggested GWO. So let's take a look at what GWO is offering. And if you missed it earlier, I mentioned that our next review coming out tomorrow is our first GWO review. And ironically, funny enough, it is the Colombian Gesha. So we're looking forward to that. Their bags are so pretty. Everything about this coffee roaster is actually very pretty. And if you have not heard about them as of this moment, everything, of course, is sold out. Not surprising. If you have not heard about them yet, I think our review will, at the very least, give you a better idea of their coffees. But they have had a lot of buzz and praise as of this moment. I would say that they are one of the more and most trendy coffee roasters, not just in Europe, but in the world, kind of within this niche space. But they are a coffee roaster that I would definitely love to review more of their coffees. The issue is, as you can see, that they sell out extremely quick, and it's only because we were able to get them from Airworks that we had a chance to review their coffee. Even this Paranima I'd be interested in reviewing. But none of these are the coffees that we reviewed from them. Obviously, this would be perfect to put into our coffee of the month theme. It's just not available. 14 euros for 100 grams is also a pretty decent price. I still have the To-Go and Alo and freezer from GWO. Yay. So jealous of that. I'm guessing you probably had to refresh their website quite a bit to get them, or at least be right there on time. I like the simple presentation of the website. Looks clean. A+. A+ for their website. This is the way that website should be able to look. You should be able to just scroll down. You should be able to see we got a washed coffee, we got an Ethiopia, we got a Honduras, and have the photos, tasting notes. Like, this is perfect. This is well done. There are a lot of other coffee roasters that we complain about when it comes to their websites. The theme for this month that we seem to be leaning towards is Colombian geishas. Not only have we had so many suggested to us, but there are quite a few people that suggested that specific theme. Have you tried Fine Time Roasters from Japan? I have not, and let me take a look. We do have a connection in Japan that is more than happy to send us any coffee out there. Yeah, it's in Tokyo. There's actually a chance then I might have gone to their shop. I went to quite a few shops that I didn't actually do reviews for while out there. To put it in context, the way that our Japan series worked is there were a handful of coffee shops we knew we had to visit, obviously, like Leaves and Switch and so on. And then we asked people at those coffee shops, not Switch, because the owner didn't like us very much, but the rest of them, what other coffee roasters they suggested. And as a result, we went to those. And that's how a lot of the series came about. But let's take a look at what we've got here. How are they in comparison to the majority of other Japanese-based coffee roasters, if you have familiarity with them? And I can't read any Japanese. I can read a little bit of Korean, but zero Japanese, so I have no idea what any of these coffees are. I'll have to, unfortunately. I know this is a Kenya because we got the SL28 varietal. And of course, that Nano Chala is going to be in Ethiopia. I'm not sure. Was wondering if you have any insight on their roasts. Unfortunately, not. I wish we had more time to explore more Japanese coffee roasters while out there. Maybe at some point in the future. And Art by Zach said Panama coffees. And I love the idea. Obviously, Panama is still my favorite origin. I feel like it'll take something extreme to surpass Panama as being my favorite origin. Ecuador has been amazing, but unfortunately, we weren't able to find too many Panamanian coffees as of this moment. I feel like it might be a better theme for a little bit later in the year, but I'm always down to try Panamanian coffees. Speaking of which, we got tagged this morning about the Hydrangea Caturra, if they still have it around. They have Firestone now too. We have not reviewed their La Papaya, have we? And do we still have the... They're out of the ultralight Caturra. That's unfortunate. They have some really good offerings, though. Them and MinMax both right now have coffees that we would want to purchase, but little overstocked as of this moment. We are meeting up with Airworks at some point this week to pick up the still coffees, and he said that he has a bunch of coffees for us, so it'll be interesting to see what we ordered. Love the idea, but unfortunately can't do it as of this moment. I think you need your Panama coffee fix. Just go to Archer's and order a bunch from them. They constantly have 50 Panama coffees for sale. One of the few events that Airworks was able to twist our arm into going into was their Panamanian Archers cupping, because I just could not resist the opportunity to try a bunch of different Panamanian geishas from a bunch of different producers. And I like Archers. It's strange and funny to me that we have not reviewed any of their coffees since our last Archers review, given that was my favorite Archers coffee we'd ever had from them. I don't think that Airworks has brought them in since, maybe just once or so. I know Archers. Now that you mention it, we were talking earlier about which coffee roaster has the best offerings. Now that I think about it, it has to be Archers. You can find anything from Archers. Like if we were going with the Burundi theme, there's a Burundi coffee. There are a couple of Burundi coffees. Got Colombian geishas here, of course. Got all those Panamanian coffees. Got Petruccio. I think one of the other questions we get asked a lot is if we could only review coffees, or we could only have coffees from one coffee roaster for the rest of our lives, which one would it be? And my pick is usually Sei, not because they're my favorite coffee roaster out there, but because they have, 300 or so different coffees every single year. And that gives you some options and variety. But it's throughout the year that they have that many different offerings. Archers constantly has this many different coffees. So Archers would not be a bad option either. If I had to pick maybe just two, then it might be these two. That's so many coffees. They would be a similar roast profile to Calendar, but I would put Oni ahead of them in terms of cup profile and quality. Interesting. That is actually extremely high praise, given that people really love Calendar. I've famously said that a barista I had in the past used to say that Calendar, from an objective roasting standpoint, was the very best out there. I don't agree with that statement, but I really liked Calendar for the longest time. A very high floor. Like I've never had a coffee from them outside of the natural that I was disappointed in. They just aren't always the most exciting out there. Been impressed with Terraform recently. They crushed their roast on the Alita Torre washed, really top notch. We are working on 3 coffees from Terraform, and I can say that I've seen positives from all 3 of those. So that's really good to hear and reassuring. I also heard from somebody that they really did not like what they had recently from Terraform. So we'll see. But so far, pretty good results with the last 3 coffees we purchased from them. We got another suggestion from Coffee Made Simple, and they suggested Ilsa. Let's take a look at Ilsa. Probably need to specify. I feel like a lot of people know how we feel about Ilsa, and I was a little disappointed when they changed their bags, because their bags were great. I actually really enjoyed them, even if I wasn't the biggest fan of their coffee. But they are a very popular coffee roaster, and for that reason, we're always happy to revisit and try something else out from them. Only issue right now is it looks like we don't have anything that fits in the theme. Churroso coffees, I still like reviewing them. Got a handful of Ethiopian coffees, and this is probably the one, if I was at a store, I'd be most interested in reviewing. Just a good old-fashioned, boring old, washed, Typica Honduran coffee. Reminds you of late 2000s, or I guess late 2010s, when these coffees were everywhere to be found. Now you can't find them anywhere. Next suggestion we got was from a Corn Man, and they suggested Ordinary Coffee Roasters. So let's take a look at them real quick. And I can't remember if we did pick up anything from them or if we ordered anything from them, but Airworks did bring them in. And now that I'm looking at their website, it does look familiar. I think we purchased a coffee or 2 from them. I just can't remember which one it was. Have Pepe washed Gesha from Ilsa resting. Looking forward to it. And I hope it's really nice. I've heard that their profile's gotten a little lighter, which would trend in the direction that we've wanted from them for a bit. So we'll see. And that's a great question about Wes and Gopi, actually. What's your recent impression of Wes and Gopi? I've just opened 2 bags, and my first impression is that they are both quite roasty. Seems more developed than before. It's so tricky with Wes and Gopi. I've never experienced more of a mystery on what you're going to get from a coffee roaster than I have from Wes and Gopi. The very first time we reviewed them, again, one of the lightest coffee roasters we had ever had, and then not quite as light, and then a little bit more developed, and then back to being a little lighter, and then it's so all over the board. And I had heard recently from somebody that the releases they had within the last couple of months were wonderful, that they were back to what they'd experienced from Wes and Gopi. But hearing that from you seems to track with the mixed impressions we've got. So our most recent experience, not the best. They made an entire statement about how they were shifting their profile again and how they were improving it. So I was optimistic that maybe that would mean lighter once again. But based off your results, it sounds like maybe it's still a little inconsistent once again. All right, let's take a look at what Ordinary is offering. I swore we ordered something from them. This is the coffee we ordered from them. They do have a washed Columbia too. I wonder if this is the other coffee we ordered. Or maybe it was this Cyoxy Sidra. But now that I'm looking at it, we did order a couple of coffees from them from Airworks. We'll write it down, this washed Gesha. They have a lot of funk on their websites. And then, wow, we still have quite a few suggestions, but let's go through those. All right. Next up, we have a suggestion from Cafe Ionic, and they suggested the Johann Vergara Java from Luna. Let's take a look. If I can't get anything from GWO next drop, I will order from Wes and Gopi because I have a 30% discount coupon. So in case, I will let you know. I'd appreciate that. I am curious to hear how their coffees are. It seems like it's just a mixed bag, a mystery on what you're going to get from them. I will state this because we're very honest and transparent about a lot of these things. The GWO did reach out to us. Airworks let GW know that we were going to be reviewing a couple of their coffees. So they reached out to us after we had already ordered the coffees. And they'd asked if we'd be interested in at some point trying out coffees before they were released. So we could pay for them, of course. And we made that very clear that we would want to pay for everything that they would release. And then we might try them beforehand. So I would love that, just based off the experiences that we've had from them being so positive, and it kind of benefits everyone. We said this before, that the idea of a coffee roaster roasting a coffee and us getting an opportunity to try it before it's released, it works out better because as things stand right now, I mean, our GWO release is going to be 90 days plus past when it was roasted or so. And as a result, people will never have had an opportunity to buy the coffee after seeing our reviews. They'll have to wait till the next time they release it. So if it would be really nice to have that chance, and I would like to do that with more coffee roasters if we have the opportunity, because it would time perfectly. Like, we release our reviews at the same time they release the coffee. So if it's a really good coffee, then a lot of people would have the opportunity to purchase it. All right. I don't see the Java right here. We might need to find it from like a secondary source, because there are other coffee shops and coffee roasters that carry their coffee, but this is the one I'd be interested in. Santa Barbara Pacas. Speaking of which, we'll take a very quick look. Maybe Ondo's carrying it. It doesn't fit with our theme, but I just kind of wanted to take a look at the coffee. Anybody that wants bots, they have bots. Anybody that wants Coffee County, they have Coffee County. Claremento, one of the better Korean coffee roasters we've had results with. I don't see any Luna currently on their website. So yeah, it looks like we might have missed out on that Java. And then the man, the myth, the legend himself, Pepe, suggested SL9 coffees. Pepe has been really high on the SL9 coffees, and anytime it's come up, he's just wanted to talk about how much he loves those coffees. So if a producer is saying that he's really impressed by a varietal and an origin combination, then you know it's good. The San Sebastian we had from Terraform last year was one of our favorite coffees last year. So the SL9s have a very high ceiling, and Pepe seemed to suggest it again. The only hesitancy I had on the SL9 coffees is that we made Peru our theme last month, and if we were to do Peru SL9s this time, it's kind of along the same thing. We can't get it from, thankfully, we can't get it from, who else is offering it? Say, both of which have won Coffee of the Month polls within the last year or so. I hope he manages to get a bigger roaster. Yes, actually, I don't want to spoil it. I wanted to talk about that more a little bit in our monthly recap video, but it seems like that might be a goal at some point. He might be trying to get a bigger roaster. Hatch has a washed Columbia Gesha at the moment. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Here's the thing, and if Pepe watches the stream, I'll say this, or if anybody's curious about the SL9 coffees that's watching this, I'm going to make it a point to pick out more SL9 coffees. So when there's a coffee roaster that we're planning on purchasing from, or we're seeing it among the offerings lists that Airworks has, we will try to purchase more of their SL9 coffees. By the way, I still feel very firm about this. I love the improvement that they've had on their bags. These are so much better. They had one of the worst bags in the game, but this reminds me of there's like a Japanese coffee roaster that has bags similar to this. But I love these bags. They're so much better. I'll write down the El Abraje. I've had good results with El Abraje. We have so many Colombian coffees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Might need to do several polls. Brett Wilson suggested Burundi coffees, and that's one of the other reasons why we were looking at Burundi coffee. So Burundi and Rwandan coffees, they seem to be popular this month as well. Pepe better be working on Putuccio or SL or Soledad SL9. That would be an interesting mix. You know, I do wonder if he wants to venture out and try that. Putuccio needs to start working on anything else. I love Putuccio's Mejorado, but the fact that that's all that they grow at Putuccio right now is unfortunate because given just how good the results have been with that varietal, I can imagine how good it would be with Gesha. And I don't want to say Sidra because I've never had good results with Sidras, but an SL9 would also make it pretty fun. Karasu, yes, that's the coffee roaster. Thank you very much. That's the one I was thinking of. They look very similar to Karasu's bags. And then we have, looks like 2 more suggestions. So TN0172 suggested Rogue Wave. And when you mentioned Hatch, that reminded me that Rogue Wave was one of the other suggestions that we did have. Rogue Wave's been up and down for a bit now. I remember a lot of people were really excited about their coffees, and I believe that they let the roaster go or the roaster left, something along those lines. And they weren't happy with the coffees. So I don't really know what happened there, but I have not heard a lot about Rogue Wave in a bit since. That's kind of the last piece of information I had about them. Is this the... We reviewed a washed Panama from Rogue Wave so many years ago now, and I'm wondering if it was this one. But obviously, I'd be very interested in a non-Gesha washed Panamanian coffee. I always liked to visit their website when trying to find coffees that would fit our theme because they almost always had something that goes in line with it. So this last margarita is Gesha. I'll write it down. Let me make sure I write it down. I also have to write down the coffee roaster, because if I just write El Obraje, then that's not going to help anything. I think they're planting Gesha at Petruccio probably a couple years ago. Yep, I'll take it. I'm very curious to see how that's going to turn out. Of course, when they do, then we'll be reviewing it. And JE said, Rogue Wave, Great Green, pretty toasty, kind of hit or miss. That's been my experience. And that's why we haven't revisited them as much. Have some very nice sounding coffees, but just can be a little bit roasty at times. And then the final suggestion we got, we're going to take a look at September after this. We got a suggestion from Mesh Mixer, and they said Still Coffee. And obviously, Still is ineligible for our list, as they won just a couple of months ago, but we have not received their coffee yet. I mentioned earlier in the stream that we are going to be picking them up from Airworks here sometime this week. So we will get to working on their coffee. And I don't think that any of these are the ones that we picked up from them. We've had a lot of people asking about where in the process our Still reviews are, and I've said that we're still just waiting to receive them. But I'm looking forward to finally trying it. This is a coffee that won that Coffee of the Month poll a couple of months ago. Yeah, of course, we'll report back. Our 43 review is going to be done before our Still review, which is unfortunate. All right. So yeah, we have a very good, extensive list. We're just going to take a look at September because Kyle did reach out to us earlier today. Let me make sure that nothing came in after that last suggestion, and it doesn't look like we did. Kyle mentioned that he has an Arnaldo Guzman that he is pretty fond of. So let's take a look at that one. One thing that's been a little interesting to me is I have not heard as much about September recently, and we're obviously subscribed to their emails, so we see everything that they release, and there have been one or two coffees that I thought were nice, but I have not seen coffees that very much sound like our coffees recently. This one right here does lean a little bit more on the clean side of things. He did mention that it is a bit more juicy. Lemonade, stone fruits, delicate citrus. Sounds nice. I just wonder if there's anything else that we can get alongside it. I might reach out to him and ask specifically. Although more people have wanted us to review the David Flores coffees. People really want to see those Sidra reviews. So yeah, whenever Kyle responds, I might ask him about a couple of things on that. All right, so we have our list, and I will stick around for just a couple more minutes if anybody has any questions or anything else that they want to suggest, and I will let you know what we have in mind. So we got quite a few suggestions for the Colombian Gesha theme, and we have, I want to say, 13 Colombian Gesha. So the one from Flower Child, the Zio from Fathers, Helm, the Jessica Parra, Fried Hats Bean and Bean has a washed Gesha, the Sioptek, Marlon Bolaños from Minmax. Standout has that Diego Gesha 2, Fruit, Oni, Ordinary, El Obraje from Hatch, and then the Las Margaritas. We'd probably need to eliminate one of those from that list, but it's a pretty nice looking list. Outside of that, that Bell Lane coffee, I'm going to look at Bell Lane while I give you guys an opportunity if you had any more questions or anything else that you wanted us to take a look at. I forgot how much the shipping to the United States is. I remember the one time we did order from them, it was a bit expensive. Probably hasn't improved given some of the issues recently. Yeah, that's a very fun sounding coffee. I wonder if they have another sample pack, if that would be included in the sample pack. It's probably long overdue to reach out to them. All right. right. Midnight's also finally hopped on the September subscription, would put them right there with Poem on my favorite roasters list. Good to know. Obviously September is one of our favorite coffee roasters. It just seemed like they went from ordering a lot of coffees that are very popular, and I don't want to say trendy, but stuff that a lot of people were either carrying or were interested in. And now they have much more unique stuff, which I do appreciate. It's nice to go to a coffee roaster website and see something different from what every other coffee roaster is offering. So I do appreciate that about them. September haven't had anything really interested in me, plus tariffs before. Now I don't really like the nickname thing that they're doing, but I'll definitely still order when the right coffees drop. If Airworks brings them in, because they've brought them in, we usually just go through their website and pick whatever we want, because it's just so much easier that way to avoid the tariffs and issues that we're about recently. 30 plus shipping from Bell Lane. I mean, the coffees aren't too bad. As you can see here, I think this is in American dollars. So 250 grams for $22 is not bad. And that's why if you get a couple of them, you can kind of balance out the costs of that. So not terrible. Since you mentioned SL9, Scenery has one, and there will be another soon, it seems. That's why I'm really waiting on Airworks to bring Scenery back in so we can purchase some of the Scenery coffees. I really like the people over at Scenery. They are really nice people. Yeah, this one. And they do have it as their lightest profile. All right. So I think that is it. We have our list, and we will probably be posting a couple of polls to help narrow down the list. But yeah, I really appreciate all of the input from you guys. This was a great stream. So I'll go ahead and end it there. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.